Hey, welcome back to another Manga Talks episode. Today I'm going to be going through 3 of the newest English manga releases that I have received and also have read. So in the past I have talked about these books because I was definitely hyped for them. So we have Beautiful Monster by Suehiro, we've got Ding Dong Circus, the reprint by Sasaki Maki, and we have, just because I'll have to show it like this, maybe like this, Red Knight by Hanawa Kazuichi, just showing that off like that because it's very glossy for a cover, so it does reflect off everything. But yeah, these were really fun to read, and also such a insane experience as well because we've got nonsense manga and 2 Guro books. So we'll just get right into it. The first book that I want to go through is Ding Dong Circus because that was the first one that I read. So this is the reprint by Breakdown Press that came out earlier this year. This was paired with Red Knight by Hanawa Kazuichi. So as I mentioned before, this was one of my most wanted books, and luckily I did not spend an insane amount on the book because the reprint came through, so I bought it as soon as I saw that. So we have Ding Dong Circus and other stories from 1967 to 1974. And I'll just show you the inside and the table of contents. So here's the illustration page and the stories here. So you notice that pretty much every story except for the last one here is from Garo. And this collects, is also derived from another tankobon in Japanese. I think its name is like Seaside Town or something like that, where they have a lot more stories, so maybe like 30-40 stories in total, but those stories as well are like, they can sometimes be a page long or a couple pages long, but this English edition anyways collects all of the big ones. And we've also got a little forward or section by Murakami Haruki, whose very first book, Hear the Wind Sing, which is, I would say, one of my favorite books of his. The Japanese book cover of that was actually drawn and commissioned by Haruki to be drawn by Sasaki Maki, so that was cool to see. So yeah, I'll just do a little flip through of the book. I won't show too much of it because, of course, I want you guys to read it for yourself and pick this up if you don't have this. But in terms of my experience reading this was so fun. So we've got this blue ink throughout the whole thing. The quality of the release is very nice too, very solid book as well, and the ink is very dark and strong too. So to talk about Sasaki Maki, my first introduction to him was through a Garo issue. This was most likely the 1972 Garo issue that I'll show off later. And because my very first Garo issues, I bought 3 of them at once, and one of them had a Sasaki Maki cover, but it actually did not have any Sasaki Maki stories in it, which was a bit odd that he did the cover of. But yeah, from that point on, and in my like subsequent reading of Garo issues and seeing his works, my first impressions of him were definitely very positive. So his art is very unique, it's very detailed, and the nonsense is so for my taste. It's right up my alley, where his works, I wouldn't say I really dig in too deep, you know. There is so much happening in it, but my appreciation for his artwork and his style is mainly visual. That's just how I sort of read into him, and later on I guess I'll talk about some other critical reviews of his stuff too, but I will show off that Garo issue now. So a part of the very first 3 Garo issues I had bought years ago, this was one of them. So this is a 1972 Feb issue, and the cover art here is done by Sasaki Maki. So it's kind of rare to see color artwork by Sasaki, especially with this many colors. You know, I've seen before just duotone stuff, so you know, orange and black and or blue, but to see this amount of color is really cool. I believe as well, another example of color artwork by him would be in his picture book, I Am a Wolf After All, and some other picture books, but at least with manga, it's quite limited. So yeah, as you can see here, all the artists that are featured on this page, there is a lack of Sasaki Maki, unfortunately, but you have, just to go through it, Mizuki Shigeru, Tsuge Tarao, Tatsumi Yoshihiro, I think that is Susumu Katsumata, yep. Fujisawa Mitsuo, Shinji Nagashima, Ryuzan Aki, who is actually another nonsense mangaka that I got into at the time as well. Roichi Ikegami has a story in here, Furukawa Mazuzo, and I'm not sure who this is, maybe Tani Hiroji, I'll have to check. But let me just quickly flip through this one here. I think I do want to go to the Ryuzan Aki chapter, so number 65. I do believe I've shown this off in a manga magazine video though, so I will link that in the description if you want to check that out. But this is a throwback for me. This is one of the earliest issues I've read. So the reason why I wanted to go to Ryuzan Aki is because it's in the same vein of Sasaki, where it's also like a similar style of, I wouldn't say all of his works are nonsense, because this one, for example, is not nonsense. It's about this guy who survived like a shipwreck or something, and he sees his dead shipmates in the leaves and stuff. But Ryuzan Aki in general, in terms of his other stuff, they do nonsense works as well. Another mangaka that comes to mind would be, what was their name? Hisanori Iwamoto, who I will show in a bit. Oh yes, this is Tani Hiroji. So I'll just quickly flip through the rest there. Tsuge Tarao. Iconic issue, to be honest. Amazing works throughout. And yeah, the other person that I was talking about, I'll get their book now. This person here, Hisanori Iwamoto, also another mangaka that I kind of associate. I associate him more with Ryuzan Aki than I do with Sasaki Maki, but kind of the same vibe and art style, where you look at the character designs like this. I haven't read this yet, but some comedic gag, nonsense manga. If you've been watching my 1973 spotlights on the Garo issues, you will see a lot of Iwamoto as well. Especially the ones where he's like, they have characters lost in the ocean. But yeah, so that was just some related artists to Sasaki Maki that came to mind, and kind of my journey into nonsense mangaka. And sometimes I would even say that Yosuke Inoue could kind of fall under a similar umbrella. If I get that out as well. So this is Yosuke Inoue. I've shown off their art books on the channel before, but this is just a Dessin work by them, so just sketches and little ink paintings. But Yosuke Inoue has done like little one-shot manga chapters where they are also nonsense, just random things happening. More in this style. You see the line work in this as well. So that was also another mangaka that I was reminded of when I was going through the Sasaki Maki stuff. And in general, when it comes to my love for nonsense, like as a feature or as a trope, I think I can trace it back to the early days when I started getting into anime, where series like Gintama and Nichijo, so these really funny gag comedy series, they had a lot of like random things happening. I guess that is where I would say my love for nonsense comes through. And I wouldn't consider Sasaki Maki as like a gag mangaka in any way. It's more leaning towards that nonsense, but either way, that sense of like randomness and chaos, I would say that's where I got my start in sort of loving the idea of nonsense. And yeah, as I was saying before, I don't look too deep for meaning. I mean, Sasaki Maki himself has stated like he's a lot of critical reviewers, they were digging very deep into his works at the time, and I think he said that he kind of rejected that. It was a bit too pretentious, that sort of thing. It wasn't like deeply political. I think in some one of the interviews he said it was apolitical in terms of his works or himself. I don't even know. Because he's done a couple of them, so I might have to check that out again. But yeah, in terms of now, what I'll also do, I'll just quickly show off this and flip it off while I'm reading, because it's another issue here that has Sasaki Maki. So it's 1972 April issue, and here he is. So the cover here is done by Fujisawa Mitsuo. But yeah, in terms of now, with nonsense manga, you don't really see anything like Sasaki Maki right now in the present, in the 21st century. At least from not from what I've seen in terms of the level of like how alternative and underground it is. There definitely will be like experimental and nonsense manga out there, but nothing at the level of Sasaki Maki, which is kind of sad to see. You know, it's with the domination of manga magazines, editors, and all that. Garo was a standout where you kind of could do anything, although the trade-off was that you were not paid anything for your stories. But yeah, at the moment, there probably are though. There probably are mangaka right now that are doing similar levels of experiments where their manga kind of goes past the boundaries of the rules of this medium. But Sasaki Maki is always a standout when I think of breaking through that. So this is the chapter by Sasaki Maki here in this issue. It's called, I think, The Crow and the Cat. This is actually in the Ding Dong Circus reprint, so this is in English, but showcasing an example of what it looked like originally in the Garo issue itself. And reading through the interview as well, or just information in general about Sasaki Maki, it was interesting to see how he transitioned from manga, I think in the late 70s or something like that, to picture books, which kind of makes sense because, Garo was not really a profitable venue for mangaka. It was there for freedom of expression and to get their name out, but, you weren't really making a living off of serializing Garo. So he did transition to children's picture books, and one of them is actually in English right now called I Am a Wolf After All. That wolf that you see in Ding Dong Circus that always goes ke, that's the wolf. I am looking to buy that sometime in the future, but I haven't really checked out any of Sasaki's other picture books, which I'm curious to see how, like, what they look like and what they're about. But in terms of manga, he actually did come back and do his first manga in so long. I think it's called like Nutty Numbers or something like that. It was only released either early this year or late last year. So I definitely will pick that up in the future too, probably in the next 2 months or so, because it's not too much of a priority right now. For me, I only did get a haul recently, which I will show off in a future video. Heads up for that. But yeah, those are the two books that I am looking forward to the most in terms of Sasaki Maki. And yeah, if you have Nutty Numbers, let me know if that's good or not, because I'll have to find out how long it's been since he's done a manga, because he did transition to picture books for quite a while, and makes sense, quite valid. It's more financially stable. But yeah, that was the first section today on Ding Dong Circus. It was an amazing read. I read it really quick as well because, with the nonsense manga, there's no plot to follow. It's mainly consuming and absorbing all of the visual, the visual circus that is his works. And I think one of the main standouts to me, and has always been, would be his artwork with elephants. I don't know, every time he has artwork with elephants, it's always like poignant. So for example, I'll show this one here. That was one that has always stuck with me. There's another story of his as well that also features elephants too, which I don't know where it was. Let me quickly find that. Somewhere in this book. Little cute boy. Maybe it wasn't in this book, but either way, his artwork with elephants is just and they're very few too. It's not like he uses it as a motif all the time. It's only appeared a couple of times, but anytime they do pop up, I always am drawn to it for some reason. But yeah, highly recommend Ding Dong Circus. Very happy that I finally was able to get this book. So now we're going to move on to the next book for today. We'll bring it to Red Knight by Hanawa Kazuichi. So this was the one here. I'll show it off like this. If it does show a reflection, I might have to censor it. But yeah, extremely glossy cover. Kind of to a little bit of a fault, to be honest. In my opinion, I don't really like glossy covers too much because, you know, you get fingerprints on it. They reflect everything, but you know, it is what it is. But Red Knight by Hanawa Kazuichi was an amazing read as well. So this was released this year, also by Breakdown Press. I bought this at the same time as Ding Dong Circus. And it collects a lot of different works from Hanawa Kazuichi. So here are the table of contents translated by Ryan Holmberg. Same thing with Sasaki Maki as well. And I think at the back, which I'll show you, there's an interview, of course, but there should be a section that shows us, the original publication details. So a lot of these are from Garo, but there are some other mixes as well. SM Select, Pelican Club, Aerotopia, all that sort of stuff. So before getting this book, I have read some of these stories just because they've appeared in Garo. One of my favorite ones is the first one that we have here, which is the titular story, Red Knight. So Red Knight, it takes the same name of the Japanese tankobon, which I don't actually have, but I'm assuming that was also like a short story collection as well. But throughout this book, loved reading it, loved revisiting a lot of the manga. If you did watch my manga spotlight for his early works, tankobon, then you might recognize some of these stories as well. And what I noticed in this book too was that in all of the short stories, we had actually quite a good variety of stories where it wasn't just the hardcore ero guro, but it was also mixed with the supernatural as well. And of course, Hanawa, the eroguro master, he is known for his jidai geki style stories, so that means like period piece stories, and sometimes they're also mixed with the supernatural as well, which I always found that combo in his manga to be really interesting and unique. And sometimes he kind of deviates from that realistic style of the period piece manga to have these cartoony sort of characters as well. This one's called Cocoon, which is one of my favorite stories in the entire book too. I love this one. And on top of this book here, we actually have another release coming sometime in the future called Light of the Moon. That for me has already been shipped out, so I'm just waiting for that to come through. So this is another page of it. So I think I've showed off enough pages of Hanawa. I'm going to quickly just get his other book. But what I was saying as well was, Light of the Moon by Mansion Press, that has shipped out, and I'll be expecting that in maybe the next week or so. That is another English edition of his works, and I'm curious to see what selection of stories they had in there, because the ones in Red Knight was very well balanced. It made sense, so that was really cool. Maybe they're leaning more towards the ero guro stuff, because I did see one of the stories that is one of my favorite Hanawa stories, so can't wait to show that off. But this is the early works collection by Hanawa Kazuichi. I did a manga spotlight on this like a year ago, but just to flick through this while I talk, that's the table of contents. But some of the, so for example, this very first one, I believe, is actually in Light of the Moon. So that's a very violent one, but one of my favorite works by Hanawa. But in terms of coming back to my journey with Hanawa, the first time I found out about him was probably the same time I found out about Maruo as well, because they're kind of associated with each other. They've actually done an art book with each other too, which is the 50 Paintings of Hell. No, I don't remember the name of it, but they have done an art book before. But with Hanawa, what I think about his works is that the level of detail is one of the best I've seen in general. And it very well fits with his subject matter, with a lot of it being quite grotesque. And in a lot of the subject matter of his works too, it's very depraved, but you can see it's kind of with an intent to criticize. So looking at all these like aristocratic people, high up people that, indulge in all these disgusting things. It's not there for like fetish, I don't think, in my opinion. It's more to criticize. So reading his stories is always like a great experience. It's like wild most of the time. So I am curious to see later on, when he did transition to more of the supernatural stuff, what sort of stories he made there, because I'm only familiar with his earlier Eroguro works. So that'll be an interesting journey to go into, but it's not something that's a priority right now. I'm still waiting for Light of the Moon anyways. But yeah, when it comes to Garo, he's only ever had 2 Garo issue cover arts, which I do have with me. I will get that now. So these, to my knowledge, are the only 2 Garo issues that he's done cover art of. So this one, which is one of my favorites, is a 1973 June issue. And this one is a 1972 October issue. So you can definitely tell this is him for the both of them. And he does have stories in both of these as well, as you can see there. But yeah, I don't think he has done any other stuff for Garo in terms of artwork. He has done maybe 1 or 2 Axe cover arts for their magazine, but other than that, nothing else. And recently, in terms of Hanawa news as well, he did like a small exhibition showcasing some newer art. A lot of them were with the subject matter of like trains and also like villages and that kind of natural landscape too, which was interesting. There was an exhibition catalog from that, but I haven't seen it, so I don't know what sort of artworks he's shown in its entirety, but I have seen pictures around as well. But yeah, that was the Hanawa Kazuichi section of this video. Amazing book. In terms of the stories that were my favorite, let me go back to the table of contents. Hard to pick because a lot of them are great. Red Knight is a great one. I've seen The Hunter before. The Cat on the Stairs, I actually do like that one, now understanding the wordplay on that. Hell Lion, Cocoon is great. How Not to Become a Cat is quite a funny one. If you read that one, you will see where the profile picture of Ryan Holmberg comes from his manga. Sorry, not manga account, his Instagram account. His handle is Mangaberg. I'll link that in the description. Shadows of the Heart, Never Ending Predicament, all these are great. And there's a little section by Akasegawa Genpei as well. His writing is very figurative. It's not like a plain critical essay or anything. It's just more subjective, his interpretation of Hanawa and what he thinks of Hanawa. But yeah, it's very funny because it's like super figurative. Nothing is literal at all. But yeah, that was Red Knight by Hanawa Kazuichi. So we'll move now to the last book that I want to show off for today. Beautiful Monster by Maruo Suehiro. So I managed to get this, finally. Very happy about that. It is an amazing book. So here's the front and here's the back of it. So this is published by Bubbles and also by Ryan Holmberg. So Ryan Holmberg has translated for every one of these books that we've seen for today, which is shout out to him because he's bringing out some of the coolest manga ever in English. So I don't know. I've talked about this before, I guess with a friend, but I feel like now we're kind of in the golden era of alt manga. Because at least in terms of the frequency of stuff that is like coming out, we're getting a lot of stuff, especially a lot of them coming from Ryan Holmberg too. So yeah, like 2 Hanawa books at the same time by different publishers, that's crazy to me. So we're very lucky. Anyone who's into eroguro, gekiga, heta uma, alt manga in general, like Glacier Bay book stuff, I think it's a great time to be in, just to read and finally get all these stories in English. So yeah, Beautiful Monster. This is a collection of short stories by, of course, Maruo Suehiro, one of the most famous eroguro masters. And what's really cool is that we do get some duotone color pages at the very start of the story. And I love this table of contents page because it reminds me of the days with the DVDs, you know, how you could select like different chapters. It does kind of remind me of that, and very useful as well that they do include where the stories were actually serialized. So none of these were actually in Garo. These were in Manga Piranha, Takarajima, Dokirigo, Eros, so a lot of different venues throughout. And they're ranging from, it looks like the 80s, mainly the 80s. One of them is in 2000, which is interesting. But I think that I won't be able to show much of this book, which is, you know, kind of makes sense when it comes to Maruo, so I will do my best. But yeah, in terms of how I came across Maruo, I think it's in the same way that everyone else did, which was through Midori. You know, everyone sees it as like the most banned movie, but I don't think it's even banned. It's just very infamous. It has a big reputation for being the most fucked up thing people have ever seen because of the movie. And through that, I started reading more Maruo. So it's been a couple years since I've read its works. I don't know if back then, I don't think I liked it. Now, reading Beautiful Monster, I do like it a lot. But I've always loved Midori, the story, because of how just insane the art is, and the story itself is quite compact, and it works well as a package compared to some of his other short stories. But yeah, just taking a look at this is one of my favorite pages from the book, actually. Just everyone laughing here, and the laughing noise coming out of his ears and his noses. Just insane stuff. But throughout, it is a very R18 book, of course, so viewer discretion is advised. And yeah, just flicking through it, I can't even find any panels that I can really show off in detail. So very limited to what I can show, but you know, I hope that gets you to get one of these books as well. But yeah, even though back then I didn't like his stories that much, I still do love his artwork, to the point where I have all three of the Maruographs, which I'm actually going to show off now. I'll go get that. Here we go. So this is the military green version of the second Maruograph. I have shown off Maruographs before. I don't know which one I did show off. Maybe it was this one. But either way, I'm going to use it to flick through while I talk about Maruo. And it'll probably suck because I'll probably have to censor a lot of these too. But, you know, that is going to be post-production anyways. So that'll be work for me later on. But coming back to Maruo, you know, it was Maruo first that I discovered, and then it was Hanawa. I would say it's hard to pick favorites, but they're quite different. This is my personal view anyways, and just how I make sense of it in my head. But Maruo is definitely depraved as well, but in a different way, kind of a different flavor to Hanawa. Maruo's art is more, in my head, his art is detailed and clean, but Hanawa is also detailed and full. That's kind of how I see it in my head. Full by, like, his pages are always filled with line work. They're insanely intricate. With Hanawa, there is a lot more like white space, but it's still very detailed, but you know, you see a lot more white space in his works, and that's kind of how I distinguish the visual side of their artwork and manga. But in terms of who is more violent, who's more crude, it kind of depends on the story, to be honest, because Hanawa later on did move on to those supernatural stories, but Maruo, I believe, has still stuck to his roots, although I haven't read any of his like recent stuff. Like Angura, I think I'm quite interested in because I've heard that there were mentions of Garo in there, so that's interesting. Tomino I haven't read either, so there's still quite a number of works that I've got to read by Maruo, which will come at a later time. Of course, you know, I am definitely looking to revisit his stories, and I've always liked Midori, but since it's been a couple of years that I've touched like Paranoia Star, for example. This is the cover artwork for Paranoia Star. You know, back then I wasn't into Edo Guro or alt manga, Gekiga in general, so now I'm interested to see what I feel about him. But yeah, in terms of what draws me to his works, it feels like a Call of the Void thing. You know, it's disgusting, depraved, but at the same time very detailed in his artwork, and the subject matter is so wild and so insane that it does kind of draw me to it. The fact that he is expressing all of these like disgusting things in a way where it's not like, I don't know, there's a I guess we have to say like an appropriate way to show it and a tasteful way to show it, unlike some of the stuff I've read. But, you know, people have different opinions for that anyways. Yeah, great art book overall. I have all three of these. So now that I flipped through it, I might have shown off a lot of these in before, but I'm trying to show off more of his artworks anyways. But yeah, going back to the, oh, there he is. There's a picture at the back. Going back to Beautiful Monster, in terms of which ones were my favorite stories. Oh, hard. Okay. I would say this one, Natural Beauty. That one was an interesting one. Impotent Lovers was insane. You can kind of tell from the artwork already. The Camellia Girl, I'm not sure what the origins of this are. Maybe it's like a spin-off or a original version of Midori, but it kind of follows that same storyline. Toilet Boy Virgin was absolutely insane. You can kind of tell how wild this will get just from the titles as well. Moon Messenger was wild. Essential Colors, Cutting Beans. What was that one? Oh. Either way, yeah. So those were kind of my favorites from the read so far. Insanely Depraved, disclaimer, even more than the Hanawa, I would say, just because of how grotesque it is. There are some parts where they are censored in the book as well, but yeah, just finally happy that I was able to get this, because I thought for the longest time that I would not be able to get this and might have to just get like the Japanese version or something like that. And yeah, I think the last thing that I have to say is for Maruo, he did feature in Garo. I do have like one of his, I'm not sure if it's a special issue because I haven't read, but he has done the cover art. I'll go quickly get that. Okay, I didn't realize, but I actually have two Garo issues that have his cover work. This one I haven't read yet. I don't think this is a special issue. It probably just features him. And then this one, I forgot. I've shown this up on the channel before. This is a 1991 June issue that has cover art by Maruo as well. This one is a 1995 June issue. So both June issues. Yeah, those were the two Garo issues. But that is the end of today's video. This was a fun one to make because all three of these books I was looking forward to getting and reading for the longest time. So yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I hope this video also gets you to look into these three mangaka more if you haven't, or to actually get these books, because, you know, Beautiful Monster as well. It's been a long time since Maruo has received an English release. It's been since Panorama Island, which was, I think, in like 2015 or something. And even better, which I forgot to mention, even better, Bubbles, at their most recent Bubbles Con, they had announced that they will be putting out another Maruo book. This one called Lunatic Lovers. I think that's the original name of it. I'm not sure if they're keeping that same title, but Lunatic Lovers is another short story collection, I believe. So another Maruo book is coming. So look out for that. This is what I mean when I say kind of the golden era of alt manga, eroguro, gekiga. We're getting a lot of consistent releases throughout the year, especially from projects that Ryan Holmberg is involved in. So whether it's Bubbles, Drawn in Quarterly, or Breakdown Press, or Glacier Bay even, with the Akino Kondo publication. Keep a lookout for that, but because we are getting a lot of consistent stuff. Living the Line, of course. Smudge, right? Insane licenses from there. So yeah, hope you guys have enjoyed this video. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.